I'm Liz Quain. I'm a Worldschooling mom of 13-year-old twin girls. We've been traveling nearly full-time in Worldschooling for over 6 years. And I like to give little talks once in a while to help more families become Worldschooling families and Trailblazing families, to encourage you that this is an amazing lifestyle. It's got its challenges. It's not perfect all the time. So I think there's some good things to learn about before you launch into this lifestyle, or maybe you've already done it and you have some hiccups along the way. So I just wanted to give some tips and tricks on how to make things a little smoother and kind of take the overwhelm into a nice lifestyle. Today I wanted to talk about how to carve out time, for yourself or with your partner, if you have one, or just me time or date night, whatever you want, while you're traveling with your kids full time. I mean, a lot of us prior to traveling, if your kids were of a certain age, they may have been in school, so you had many hours a day so you can get work done or to go run errands or focus on other things. But many of us are, homeschooling, unschooling, world schooling while we're traveling, or sometimes, we put them in a school or whatnot. But it gets a little trickier when you're nomadic. I gave a similar talk to a World School pop-up in Mexico in 2018. So I've got that as a base. I've got some notes that I'm going to read, and then I added some information just from the last 4 years of what I've done to be able to, focus on my work or errands and whatnot when my kids were really young. So yeah, let's discuss this, and, feel free to ask questions during the chat. I'll repost this in my Facebook group, Worldschooling, Traveling, Digital Nomad, Trailblazing Families. I think that's the name. I've got a long name. And I'll post it on YouTube as well. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's new. I only have a handful of videos on there. It's called Trailblazing Families. But over the next following months and years, I'm going to have lots of content with great tips and tricks for how to travel extensively with kids, whether it's part-time, intermittent, or full-time, or just, on school vacations. So please subscribe. And, again, one of the benefits of traveling extensively with your kids is you get to spend more time with them, or with your partner if you have one. So it's nice because I think in the traditional lifestyle, everyone kind of leaves in the morning to go to school or work, or maybe you work from home or whatever. But it's, you're spending a lot of time away from your kids, and they're only young, for so many years, and it just goes by really quickly. One of the nice advantages of Worldschooling and living kind of a nomadic lifestyle is you get to spend more time with your wonderful kids and get to know them better. And, maybe if there's any behavioral issues or, conflicts in the past, when you kind of live this half separate life, you might be able to resolve by being closer and having a closer bond. So I have found that to be true for my kids. And of course, nothing's perfect, but it is great to be able to spend more time with kids. And there are some parents who just feel like, oh, I can't be with my kids all the time. I need them to go away, go to a school or be with a nanny or whatever. And I understand that. I'm a busy solo parent and I need time on my own. But it is nice to have the quality time with your kids. But sometimes, we need to get work done, and we need to run errands, or we need to, maybe we're still trying to figure out our digital nomad income. I know when I first started in this lifestyle, I needed that extra help with my kids when we were in Thailand, because Chiang Mai is a digital nomad hub, and I was going to a lot of events at the time. I will, just talk about the solutions that I use during our travels, and hopefully they will help you as well. So I'm going to be sharing some of the solutions I've used, as well as other Worldschooling traveling parents that I've heard of. I've kind of chatted with people about this topic in various Facebook groups. So, all right. So the first thing is kind of obvious. If you have a spouse or a partner, then it's obviously a great idea for you guys to take turns if you're both, working or need to get work done or errands done, or go get a pedicure, whatever it is. So you guys can, maybe make a schedule, or, like mom is with the kids in the morning and dad's with the kids, or the other mom, the other parent is with the kids in the afternoon, and then you're together as a family in the evening. I mean, it's nice to kind of have that. Obviously, it depends on what you guys have planned for the day. But, it's nice to be able to swap time with the kids. And, maybe this is a great time to not just spend time with them and babysit them, not babysit your own kids, but also you can do a little homeschooling together if you do that. But yeah, so it's nice to, be able to go visit a co-working space where you have a little bit more quiet time to get work done. And yeah, another parent mentioned that, we take turns going out alone or taking the kids out alone, having like, sometimes I have twins, so I have mommy and Gabby time, or mommy and Aubrey time. So we kind of have a date with our individual kids. So it's nice to have another adult take care of the other kid. So yeah, so they get one-on-one time, or you get, mom and the kids time, or dad and kids time. And then obviously another great one is having a nanny or a babysitter or an au pair. I have had several nannies over the last 6 years. When I first was in Chiang Mai, Thailand, at the beginning of our travelers, I was going to a lot of digital nomad events. So I hired a nanny there who was actually half Thai, half American. So she spoke both languages and had a car, and it was great. She was kind of expensive because she spoke English, but I was able to get out and about. And also sometimes the Worldschooler families that would meet up and go do something, she would go with them instead of me, because I had another event to go to. She went with the kids and the other families to go to the elephant poo-poo paper factory, which if you ever go to Chiang Mai, you got to go there. Okay. And then also I had 2 different nannies when we were spending 6 months in Medellin, Colombia. One was a local Colombian gal, a college student who had a big break during her Christmas time. They have like a big break. So she helped me then. And then when she went back to school, I found a Venezuelan woman. She was a teacher, and the economic situation in Venezuela is not great. So a lot of them are moving to Colombia. And there was a Facebook group for people looking for jobs. Now, luckily, my other Colombian friend, because my Spanish is only so, was willing to help me, post the ad on the Facebook group and, narrow down the people. I think we made some phone calls first and chatted with them. And then we invited 3 of them to come to my Airbnb. And so my Colombian friend was able to help me, ask some questions. I wrote the questions down, and my Colombian friend didn't speak English, but I was able to translate them, and she was able to ask the questions, and they were able to talk. And she was able to help me make a decision on who to hire. And the one woman was wonderful. We actually had her live with us because she had just arrived to Medellin and needed a place to stay. And so it's kind of like an au pair situation. The Colombian gals for babysitting wanted me to pay them extra because, they would commute to our house every day, or, to leave their house in Medellin to live with us. They wanted to be paid extra. So it was really a win-win. And I also, during the pandemic, we were in Mexico, and we were in Puebla, Mexico for 8 months. So I hired a local gal who typically works, she was trying to get a job at a school, and she had been an au pair before. She was college educated and spoke English, but she couldn't get a job during the pandemic because all the schools were shut down. And she just returned back to Mexico from Austria, where she was an au pair. So she had a great experience, and she was a great cook. So she was willing to basically hunker down with us in our house. I got a bigger house. She had her own room. She was able to, hunker down with us, and, she was willing not to go out with friends and socialize, because we didn't want her to bring COVID back home. And, this was before the vaccines, and everyone was, people in Mexico, lots of them were getting sick, and I know someone who died. And so we were concerned about that. So, she did go visit her family once a month. I drove her there. I had my car there. But I knew they were also kind of in not quarantine, but just, keeping away from everyone else. So now in Latin America, I have paid around $400 a month for full-time, 8 hours a day nanny / cook. I usually hired somebody else to clean because these gals weren't that great at it, or at least one of them didn't want to. And that was inexpensive. So now I have heard some people pay lots more for a nanny, and I've heard people pay lots less for a nanny in that part of the world, and also in Bali and other parts of Asia, and lower cost of living countries. So think about what you typically pay for childcare in your home country, maybe the US, or you're in Europe or whatever. I mean, in the US, it's crazy how expensive it is for daycare and childcare or a nanny. You have to make a really high income to be able to afford that. So I think it's a great way to get wonderful childcare, plus maybe the kids are learning Spanish or whatever language you're interested in. And so these nannies have become, wonderful friends. And I really, as a solo parent or as any parent, it's just so great, for $400 or whatever it is a month, to be able to then focus on your work or whatever you have to do. So another parent said that they have an au pair, and I guess the mom went back to work online while they were traveling. So her nanny takes care of the children and also teaches them French. Another option is to bring a responsible babysitter to travel with you. I mean, if you're, I don't know, maybe there's somebody that is willing to go with you if you pay all their travel expenses and maybe some spending money. I mean, the professional nannies probably want that plus be paid. But a babysitter, maybe a teenager or college student who's has some time off during the summer or whatever, maybe they will be willing to go and spend, half the day taking care of the kids, because then they could go sightseeing with you all, obviously pay for all their stuff. And then another thing is to hire someone local to play with your kids while you're working a few hours a day. And then one mom said that her teen will watch the younger siblings for Starbucks or Dutch Brothers. So win-win, whether you pay them in cash or give them extra treats, that's a nice thing. So one parent advertises for babysitters on Lonely Planet Thorntree, Lonely Planet, the travel guidebooks. They have a message board. You can also look at care.com, sittercity.com, craigslist.org. Obviously, depending on what country you're in. I look at local expat Facebook groups, and often in there, I can ask, is there a parents focused Facebook group for this city? And I'll join that, and I'll ask for recommendations. A lot of times people have nannies, but then they're moving away, or maybe their kids are going to school, they've gotten older, and they can highly recommend their current nanny who needs a new job. And, again, the local moms Facebook groups, the local Facebook groups for people looking for work. Now, again, that's a little, it's when you don't have a recommendation, you need to really check their references, and that may or may not work depending on if you could speak their language. So maybe you have a friend, or you can meet somebody, or hire a translator or something to help you with that. And many cities around the world have a professional nanny service. Now, obviously these cost a bit more, but I think these people are vetted, they're trained. Sometimes they wear like a little t-shirt, uniform or whatnot. And they have childcare centers around the world, especially in big cities. So, obviously most of them may or may not speak your language, but if you can figure out via Google Translate and contact them, again, you kind of need to get used to technology or have a friend or learn the language. But yeah, so work life, business life with kids, as one mom said, especially toddlers, is tough. And there's no getting around it. I put my toddlers in daycare 2 half days a week and work during nap time and again at night. So that's how she was able to manage. Now, while we typically unschool and world school my kids, my girls did attend a couple different small local schools, a private school in Peru, so they can learn Spanish. And I remember it was about $200 a month per kid, so $400 a month for both of them. And that was great because that was all day long. We specifically found a place to live within walking distance of that school. It was called Soli Luna in Urubamba, Peru, and it was lovely. And my girls made local Peruvian friends. and they were able to learn some Spanish. So then I could get the work done. It was close enough away down a dirt path where maybe after 2 weeks of me walking them to and back from school, they were able to walk themselves back and forth. I think they were 10 years old at the time. And again, this is free range parenting, and Peru is very safe. There was cows sometimes in the road, but it was just a dirt road and maybe a 5-minute walk. 10-minute walk. So yeah, some schools do take foreign kids on a temporary short-term basis, or you may want to enroll them for the entire year and get a residency permit. You might be able to get an education visa for your kids, and then you would be able to stay in that country as a chaperone. So check out that option. So I will work on putting together a list of Worldschooler friendly schools. I will add it to my Facebook group. And so yeah, schools is another option. And then, classes, various classes. When we lived in Medellin, my kids attended a karate, gymnastics classes. There was a giant sports stadium that we intentionally lived close to, within walking distance. I was taking my girls back and forth, and I would just bring my laptop. And, again, you can tether it to your phone if you have data. Usually they don't have Wi-Fi, but if you're writing something or editing something, every bit helps. And then later when I hired the nanny, she was taking my girls back and forth. They also went to a cooking class, which was a taxi ride, Uber right away. So each, like I said, was like 1-2 hours of time. It doesn't give you a lot of time, but it's something. And then the kids are learning something too. When we were in Buenos Aires, Argentina recently, I found a group of Argentine teen homeschoolers for my daughter to meet with every Friday. So you can try to go to homeschool meetups, whether you drop off your kids or go with them. But obviously we're trying to get time alone to work. So hopefully you're looking for the drop off option. So yeah, every Friday at a homeschool mom's house, an Argentine lady's house, she hired a teacher. It was kind of like an English class, but then the kids were doing other things and obviously speaking Spanish too. So it was kind of a interchange, a language interchange. So that was great for my daughter. And then I dropped her off and I went to a nearby cafe to get work done. Other times there are vacation camps. So if you are in a city or a place where their school is out, they often have, week-long or month-long vacation camps. So I enrolled my girls in a vacation camp when we were in Medellin, and it was fairly inexpensive, and the kids did like fun activities every day. And then obviously they're being immersed, with the Spanish language. My kids had mixed feelings about this one because it did have younger kids who are a bit loud. My girls don't like young, loud kids. So it's, sometimes a challenge to find age appropriate camps. Maybe again, they have bilingual ones, maybe it's all in the language of that country. Anyway, so that was fun. And then obviously I've talked before about Worldschooling hubs or traveling family hubs. And some of them are very informal and don't have any activities or childcare organized, like the parents need to kind of DIY it. But some of them do have lots of activities, stuff for kids to do all day. We are going to one in Bansko, Bulgaria this winter for the 2nd year in a row. And they have, now my daughter's a teen, so they have teen activities, but they have one for kids. I don't know what the age is, maybe 6 to 12 or something. And there's facilitators there and stuff going on all the time. And then for the little kids, they have childcare. You have to pay extra for that, but that is great. And there's a co-working space for the adults. And obviously we have our apartments, we can work. I don't know. We'll see how the internet is there. But that's where I will be in January. So we're excited about that. And, depending on the hub, some are very highly priced, like the Boundless one in Central Portugal, Greece, and I think Italy's coming. They're fairly pricey, but the one in Bansko is pretty affordable because the person running it is a Worldschool mom and she's running it as a nonprofit. Okay. And, if you're going someplace kind of short term, you can stay at a hotel that has a kids club. I did this once when we first started traveling. I had just sold my business, so my bank account was pretty good at that time. And my kids and I really needed a vacation because prior to selling my business, I was working 7 days a week running the business. It was a children's business that had a lot of stuff going on during the week. And then on weekends, we hosted birthday parties. So I hardly got any time off when I ran that business for nearly 4 4 years. So we needed a vacation and we stayed at a resort in Bali, and, it was $150 a night. We stayed there, I think 4 days, and it had a kids club. So it was really nice to be able to drop my kids off, and they were learning how to make those cute little Balinese, I forget what they're called, but they're the little offerings to the gods, made out of leaves, and you put little flowers and incense and candy in there or whatnot. So they learn how to do that and other fun activities. So yeah, it's a nice treat. I was able to relax and get a massage and whatnot. But it's a bit expensive to do all the time. I mean, depending on your budget. And remember that Worldschooling is, it's not a vacation so much, it's a lifestyle. So again, maybe you have the budget to stay at resorts all the time, but for me, even if I did, I'd probably want to rent a monthly place and kind of live more like, not so much a local, perhaps, maybe, but kind of like a long-term or short-term expat, and meet other families. So, and not just tourists coming in and out of the resort. Okay, but again, staying at a hotel with a kids club. I know some people go on cruises that have a kids club. I have a friend of mine, a solo mom, who's been traveling longer than I have with her daughter, and she's really big on doing repositioning cruises, which are way cheaper. And she did the math, and she said, if you consider what you're saving on airfare and food and accommodation, the repositioning cruise is a great deal. And they often have a kids club. So the internet's a little difficult on a cruise line though. Okay, so once you start making friends with other families, whether they're locals or other world schoolers or expats, you can swap play dates with them. And yeah, so another parent said, we meet lots of other traveling families, and our daughter has had loads of play dates and sleepovers. That's how we get time for ourselves. We return the favor by having their kids over to us as well. We've now been traveling for a while and deliberately arranged to meet up with families who we've met earlier. So yes, I have done this as well. I had my kids over for a play date at the homes of other World Schooler families, or local families that we've become friends with, like the school in Peru that my girls went to. And then I reciprocated, and I would have the kids over another day. And yeah, so again, maybe you can find some local families who want their kids exposed to English or whatever language you speak, and then you want your kids to be exposed to their language. Again, you guys can take turns hosting a play date or babysitting for free in exchange for doing it another time. And then if you really trust the family and get to know them well, maybe you feel comfortable for the kids to do a sleepover. And so do a night exchange for the parents. And I have done this. I have friends that we've met in 4 different countries, other world schoolers. So my girls became friends with their sons, and they would babysit while I went to like some women entrepreneurial evening event or something. And, so then I didn't feel like I had to get home really early, and I could stay until 10, 11 p.m., whatever. I don't stay out that late. And then I returned the favor where those parents wanted to go salsa dancing, and sometimes those things are later in the evening. So I had her kids over to my place and babysat them. So not babysat, but they were over for a sleepover. And it was, sometimes they're together 12 to 24 hours. It's great. So then you could get work done. So again, I've only done this with parents that I feel really comfortable with, that I trust, and it's worked out great. You can intentionally travel with other families with, kids around the same age, and you can take turns doing work versus childcare and me time and all that. So yeah, find a like-minded family to travel with and exchange childcare, or you can find them in the destination you're at. And once you get to know them, if you trust them, you can exchange childcare. Another option is to bring a relative along. And I met a family in Bansko, Bulgaria last winter, and then later I saw them in Turkey. And yeah, grandma travels with them while mom and dad work, and they do pay her. And she has some online work as well. So it works out for everyone, because, obviously the kids get time with grandma and vice versa, and then the parents get some time to work. Now, another option is to co-live with some families. When we were in Peru, I was renting a large room, and there was a shared kitchen in this really large property that was becoming an Airbnb, actually more of a B&B hotel. And they weren't finished yet. So I got a good deal. And then I was posting on various Worldschooling groups telling people about this opportunity. And, you know, they had that school just down the street. So I had like 10 families come through over a 4-month period. And at this one time, 2 other solo moms came with their kids that were around the same age as my kids. And it was awesome because like the whole property was a large property, it was all fenced in. There was a couple animals, dogs and cats on the property. But the kids could just run wild on the property. It was really safe. And so they would just play out there, you know, free range. You know, one parent says, having your kids in a secure but adventurous enough place in nature is, and the sun is the best nanny ever. The kids are playing and you are free, a safe place where they can't get too far away. So yeah, I've done that. And then usually one of us moms is nearby to be there in case, you know, something happens. And yeah, we took turns and we can get work done or go to the market to get errands done. And we really love this co-living situation. But downside is sometimes there's too much socializing between the moms. That's what happened to me. And then it's hard to get focus on the work that you want to get done. Okay, then let's talk about play centers, indoor usually, or maybe outdoors that have Wi-Fi. Now, I used to own an indoor children's play center outside of Seattle, and I had customers come in because we had Wi-Fi. And they were supposed to watch their kids. I had this long counter with bar stools overlooking the play area where they're, and depending on the age of the kids, but if the kids could be in the play space without them, they can get the work done as long as they kept an eye on their kids. So they have these kinds of places all over the world. Sometimes they serve good coffee and other food like mine did. Others are just, I don't know, maybe a soda or something. Yeah, so this is a good option depending on how long the kids want to play. Now, sometimes they're a little loud, you know, depending on if there's a bouncy house or there's a bunch of kids running around screaming. But anyway, that's an option. And also some shopping centers have free childcare, like IKEA stores or other types of places where you can drop the kids off for a bit while you run your errands. Okay, and another parents, they just simply work when their kids are sleeping. One parent said she works in the early mornings before the kids wake up, and that's her work time. Otherwise, they're with me 24/7 and have been since birth, and that's great. Another parent said, we put the kids to bed early and we sit outside, we listen to the music, we talk, we have some drinks. Actual date nights don't typically happen while on the road unless we happen to be near family or really close friends that can watch the kids. Time for myself is rare. If my husband gets off early, I may run to the store by myself or get a pedicure. And then an RV family said, yeah, we put the kids to bed, close the slider door to our bedroom and watch a movie in bed. Of course, the volume's really low and the closed captions on because while they can hear a pin drop in the RV, I can't bloody well hear anything that's being said. So I have to read the subtitles. I've done that too. I've had to put my earphones in, you know, to be able to listen to it and then read the subtitles. And then she adds a few adult beverages to the mix, and it feels like they're having a night out RV style. Okay, so another option is, which is very controversial, is having your kids be on their devices, you know, electronics. But for me, you know, I think it's good when they're young to use sparingly. My kids didn't really have a lot of access to devices. I mean, maybe some baby Einstein and, you know, some TV shows and stuff once in a while. But I finally got them iPads when they started traveling, and I got those heavy duty covers because they have broken them, and one of them recently, and I'm not happy about that. She cracked the screen, and over time it got worse and worse. Anyway, but they really got into Roblox and Minecraft, and they spent so much time building amazing universes and buildings and stuff in Minecraft. And you know, so they're learning about building, creating, teamwork, how to survive, writing by typing with other players, chatting with them, learning about animals and social skills. So one of my girls claims she really improved her reading skills thanks to Roblox, like reading this stuff and chatting with the other kids. And if possible, is it possible for you to take a break with your from your kids? Now I'm a solo parent, and I was lucky to have my mom really involved almost daily with my twins for the first 7 years of their life. And after traveling and world schooling for a year without my mom, we did return to the Seattle area, and I left my kids with my mom for a couple months while I went solo to Chiang Mai, Thailand, because at the time I was trying to have an Amazon business, and Chiang Mai had lots of Amazon sellers. So they had a lot of events. And so I could really focus on it uninterrupted for a couple months. And, it was a win-win because my kids missed grandma and she missed them, and I needed to focus on my then business. So it was a win-win. So is there a relative or a grandparent that you can drop your kids off for a week, a weekend, a month? Be creative about that. And yeah, overall, it gets a lot easier as they get older. My kids are now 13, and I don't need childcare as they keep themselves pretty occupied, and they obviously have each other to hang out with. I know it's harder when you have one kid. And anyway, so my girls are really creative. They spend hours a day drawing on their iPad, digital art, or sewing things, playing games, watching video. One of them's really into animation. She hopes to get into that field in the future. And yeah, so that is great. And then I'm nearby if they need me, if they have a question. So yeah, those are my tips. And I guess I would like to ask everyone, what about you? I mean, what solutions have you used while you're traveling to be able to carve some time out to get some work done, or errands run, or have me time or date night? Have you tried the ones that I've mentioned? Do you have any concerns about any of them? I know, having others babysit your kids, hiring a nanny that you don't know very well, can be kind of scary. I have learned that in general, especially outside my home country, there's a lot of kind, trustworthy people and good people. So you just do your best, and maybe have little short experiments, maybe have the nanny try somebody out for an hour or so, and then be nearby. Maybe you just have them there, you're still there, and then see how it goes and build up to it. And then you can leave the house. But what other suggestions do you have? And then I am going to see, I'm going to see your old twin girls. We've been traveling for over 6. Okay, I'm going to refresh and see if there's any questions or comments. Not yet. Okay, so I hope this was helpful to you all. And please type in replay if you've seen it and have any questions, because I'd really appreciate it if we can keep the conversation going. All right, thanks everyone. And as I mentioned, try to find my YouTube channel, Trailblazing Families, and subscribe, as well as the Facebook group, Worldschooling, Traveling Digital Nomad Trailblazing Families. I know it's a long thing. You can type in Trailblazing Families on Facebook and you'll find the Facebook page, but there's more activity happening in the Facebook group. All right, everyone. Hope you have a good rest of the day and weekend. Bye.